Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And first off, go Birds. Definitely one of the most bizarre games that I've ever witnessed, but Jalen Hurts, he's a baller and he got it done. It's all that matters, and, when it's against the Cowboys, that's just double the fun. So, yeah, fly, Eagles, fly, but today what I really want to talk about is actually, in my opinion, absolutely hilarious. Hollow Knight Silksong just released, and apparently it actually has the industry scared. And that's not a simple exaggeration. It's an actual report that's going around. So we need to talk about it. Not only to celebrate Silksong and just its massive success, but also because it does make a lot of the industry look bad. And just given everything that's happened in the past 24 hours, this could possibly be a game changer for the game industry. So stick around and we're going to get into all of that. Plus, I really don't know what Sony's doing anymore. I don't know if they're just not learning from their mistakes or if they're just being hard-headed. But a new detail came out today which doesn't sound all that great, or at least on paper. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go get right into things, though, starting off with Ghost of Yotei. Jeff Keighley seems very excited to have gotten an early review copy, and he revealed that the review embargo date will lift on September 25th. So in a mere 20 days, we will start to see early reviews for Ghost of Yotei, and yeah, I really want to emphasize the early part here because not only are they sending codes out a month in advance, but just as important is that the embargo date is lifting well ahead of its October 2nd launch. So what that tells me is that Sony seems to have a lot of confidence that this game will be well received, or at least from a critic standpoint. Sometimes consumers come out with different conclusions, especially when it comes to stories and character decisions. But for sure, I think at the very least, Sony has a lot of confidence in Ghost of Yotei in terms of critical reception, and that, I'd say, is a good early sign, if anything else. I know the first game is an absolute fan favorite from last generation, and I hope the sequel lives up to those lofty expectations. Now, here's something really cool, and also I'd say a little bit frustrating at the same time. It sounds like Batman Arkham Shadow will get a sequel, or at least according to one of its voice actors. In an interview with Culture Combine, he pointedly said that, quote-unquote, same thing with the Batman Arkham Shadow VR game. We're about to start another one of those. I play Commissioner Gordon. And this is not the first time that we've seen a voice actor or an actor leak a game ahead of time. This has become fairly common because, for whatever reason, they just don't quite understand that they're not really supposed to reveal that information. But, as a fan, I'm actually glad that they don't understand that because I like getting that type of information a little bit early. But the thing is that on one side, this is fantastic news. Batman Arkham Shadow is often praised as one of the absolute best VR titles and a great follow-up to the Batman Arkham series. That, however, is kind of the issue that some people have with this, though, because, fans have been begging for a new Batman Arkham game for years and years. And now that it's finally back, unfortunately for a lot of those Arkham fans that's been begging for a new game, it's just not a regular game that can be played on traditional hardware, but rather it's a VR series. Now, personally, I think virtual reality is really cool. I have a few VR headsets myself, but the fact is, and the fact that remains, is that they are extremely niche for various different reasons, including its high price for entry. So the technology just hasn't quite taken off the way the industry hoped that it would. So while I'd say, yes, it's really cool to see a series like this for VR headsets, we need more good VR games, but at the same time, it's also kind of alienating in the sense that a large portion of Batman Arkham fans are just unable to play it. So, it is what it is, but, if you do have a VR headset, then apparently you can look forward to a potential Batman Arkham Shadow sequel, or at least according to this voice actor. Now, we also got an announcement from Metal Gear Solid Delta as it officially eclipsed 1 million units sold as of August 28th, which was actually the same day that it released. So this is just 1 day's worth of sales. Though I'm actually a little bit amused by some of the responses to this announcement. Yeah, some people are actually questioning whether this is good or not, which I think kind of speaks volumes about the state of the industry and just the expectations that some of these publishers have set. Apparently that mindset has now transitioned over to fans as well. The unrealistic expectations are just all over the place. I mean, if you have to question if 1 million units sold in a single day is good or bad, then I'd say that's kind of a concern for the industry. This absolutely is great. I mean, this is a remake of a 20-year-old game, and I think what this really tells us is just how beloved the Metal Gear IP still is, all of these years later. I know it's one of my own personal favorite franchises of all time, so I'm actually really happy to see its return, and really, I just hope we get more of these remakes. Not necessarily a brand new entry for Metal Gear, just because I'm not convinced that it would be the same series without Kojima, but I do want more of these remakes. I mean, go back and remake the first game next, which I think would be incredible if they do that. If anything, though, I think this could be the green light that Konami needs to make that happen. Now, if they do, though, I mean, just do me one favor, Konami. Please, prioritize frame rate for your next game, and I'm just going to leave it at that. All right, now, since we're on the topic of the state of the game industry, we need to talk about Hollow Knight Silksong and how it's apparently scaring other studios because of their own business model. Yeah, this is an actual thing, but first let's just kind of set a little groundwork before we get into that. So the first Hollow Knight sold 15 million copies. I mean, there's not a lot of games, independent or AAA, that can sell that many copies. 15 million is absolutely incredible for any game. And every single year, the fans had to wait for the long-awaited Silksong. The hype just kind of grew, and it grew, and it grew. So for a game of this caliber to come out at a $20 price, I'd say is actually one of the most consumer-friendly things that we have seen within the game industry in a very, very long time. I mean, if we're being completely honest, Team Cherry could have easily priced Silksong at $30 or maybe even $40, and fans probably still would have eaten it up. But Team Cherry didn't do that. They didn't take advantage of their massive, loyal fan base because they could simply get away with it. Team Cherry said, no, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to give our great fans this super hyped up product, one of the most hyped up games of all time, and it's going to be set at an amazing price in the world of 2025. I mean, let me just kind of put this into perspective. Nintendo, last month, released Drag X Drive. A game that nobody cared about, a game with no fanfare whatsoever, and a game that probably should have been a pack-in title, if we're being completely honest about things. Yet Nintendo tried to charge $20. Yes, the exact same price as Hollow Knight Silksong. I mean, that just kind of says it all right there. But that's the thing, because this price is so good, and because the game itself is so good, it actually has the industry scared. Yeah, this was posted up by My Nintendo News, and they said the excellent Hollow Knight Silksong launched yesterday for the grand price of $20. But some developers who've spoken to Eurogamer believe that price point is too low and could reflect badly on their games, which are set to be slightly more. It should be noted that Team Cherry has 4 core team members, and it uses some contracted help, whereas AAA games can have over 1,000 working on a project. It will be interesting to see if Silksong's price point could affect video game pricing going forward. And I mean, I hope that it does, because the game industry, it's crazy right now. I mean, there's all this talk about $70 and $80 games. And yeah, AAA games, they do have to have more resources. We know that. But, and I've said it for years, game budgets shouldn't be $300+ million. That's ridiculous. So this is not a situation of tariffs raising prices for games. Now, hardware, that might be a bit of a different story. But in terms of games, the software, that more so comes down to bad management, allowing these overly absurd budgets. And it's not like we're getting better games because of those higher budgets. I mean, I can very easily make a debate that last generation's games, on average, were superior in terms of their fun factor, their characters, and even when it comes to storytelling. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with every single game, but what I will say is that is one of the reasons that people love Silksong. It's just a fun game that, much like the Soul series, respects the player. It challenges them. And with all of that combined, Team Cherry is being heavily rewarded. Yeah, check this out, because Silksong has already reached a peak high of 562,000 concurrent players on Steam alone, which is beyond crazy. I mean, that's already the 18th highest peak on Steam of all time. And it's not even the weekend yet. I mean, it very well could actually grow even more over the next few days. And you have to kind of remember here that Silksong is available on things like Xbox Game Pass. So its numbers are likely very high over there. And it's also extremely popular among the Nintendo crowd. In fact, and we talked about this yesterday, the Silksong broke every major storefront. It broke the store on Xbox, it broke Steam's store, it broke Nintendo store, and it broke PlayStation store. So, I mean, we are very legitimately talking about one of the most successful launches of all time. And I am absolutely loving this. To me, I think it's amusing to hear that other developers are complaining about its price. You know, as if us consumers just don't matter. We should just pay those higher prices simply because. What I would kind of say to that, though, is that if they don't want to look bad in comparison, either match the quality of Hollow Knight and Hollow Knight Silksong in this case, or give fans maybe a more fair price. Just kind of saying. All right, now one more thing before we go, and this last topic just threw me for a loop when I saw it. So earlier this year, Sony canceled a Sony Bend project, which turned out to be a live service game. So just kind of throw it into the graveyard of live service games that Sony has canceled this generation. If you ever wondered about why their pipeline has been so bad these past few years, look no further. Which, I don't even think is surprising in cases like this. Sony didn't greenlight Days Gone 2. That's probably the game that Sony Bend should have worked on, but instead they shifted them over to a live service title. That's the game that Sony greenlit for them, and my problem with that is that turning a predominantly single-player studio into a multiplayer studio is a lot easier said than done. Multiplayer games require completely different priorities in terms of gameplay. And with that in mind, developers also need a completely different skill set than what they would apply on a single-player story-driven experience. It's one of the reasons that we keep seeing these live service failures from studios that otherwise have always prioritized single-player first. I say all that, though, because we just got news about Sony Bend's next project, and lo and behold, it seems to be, drumroll please, yes, another live service project. I mean, I thought maybe they would have done a Days Gone sequel. I mean, the first game actually sold a lot of units. It seems like it's only grown more fans over the years. Or they could have even worked on a new single-player IP. That seemed plausible. But no, that's not what they're seemingly doing. According to a job listing, they're instead hiring for a new multiplayer project. And I just don't understand this. I don't know if Sony just hasn't learned their lesson yet. But, I mean, I guess they're just on a mission to destroy their single-player studios on the hopes that they'll eventually find their mythical cash cow, a.k.a. a successful live service project that they can live on for years and years. Just ridiculous, though. I'm not expecting much out of this game, but, maybe they'll surprise me. Who knows? But definitely not exciting to hear about this on paper at the very least. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.